Federal law provides severe civil and criminal penalties for the unauthorized reproduction, distribution, or exhibition of copyrighted motion pictures and DVDs. The FBI investigates allegations of criminal copyright infringement, and this government says it's okay to torture. So I wouldn't fuck around if I were you.
To heighten the horror, shock your senses, chill your brain. It could only be shown at midnight. You will enter the world of the fifth dimension. The light, the sound, the horror. You will feel it around you.
On the dawn of man comes Schlock. A beast from 20 million years ago stalks the streets of today. A love stranger than King Kong. A monster more powerful than Godzilla.
Anyway, I'm just now figuring this out, and we can do this as loose as you want. I think that convention might have been in '72, because it was the main period in which Schlock got released, and this also covers that night I was talking about at the El Rey Theater, which would have been Filmex.
No, Schlock actually was released in '73.
Okay, then I was...
It was made in '71.
Made in '71.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm not presentable. I'm with Johnny Legend. I'm sorry.
Right.
Here, look at me so I could...
And none of this gets cut.
Wait a minute. Wait, hold still.
I see something.
No, I need your glasses. Okay.
Oh, reflections.
Now I'm...
So, like I was saying, in 1973, maybe I'll go to the El Rey first, and then we'll go on to the convention. We were both at the El Rey Theater at Filmex, a very prestigious event back in those days, and they took over the theater for the weekend to run the Filmex events. By pure coincidence, John's first film was having its very lavish first run all over the country, particularly in LA, at theaters and drive-ins everywhere, including the El Rey, where we were.
Over 300 theaters nationwide. Big stuff.
That was a Jack Harris run, right?
Yeah, a lot of drive-ins.
Yeah. So we were at the El Rey. Now the quirk here was, because Filmex took over the theater, Schlock only played on the weekdays, and then on the weekend, Filmex was running its program. So you coincidentally happened to be there with me, and I was with a friend from high school.
What was the program?
The Wild Bunch. It was intermission, and the Wild Bunch was about to start.
Oh, no, I was there for the Wild Bunch, not that Schlock was playing.
Okay. So I'm talking to my friend, and he's kind of naive, and I said, "Oh, Pete, this is my good friend John Landis. He's a filmmaker. He's got a new movie out." And Pete said, "Oh, what is it?" And I said, "Well, it's funny you should mention that. It's playing here at this theater." And he said, "Oh, you're kidding."
Called the Wild Bunch.
Yeah, and he looked at you like, "Oh, you made the Wild Bunch?" And we kind of laughed and said, "Well, no, it's actually Schlock," when we explained to him why it wasn't there. So that's that great El Rey story.
It's a story. Boy, that Johnny Legend.
Well, if you like that one, wait till you get to this one.
Man. That's your great story?
No,
that was the story?
That was just the lead-in.
He says, "Sean, I'm going to tell him that great story about the El Rey." I'm thinking, what great story about the El Rey? That was it.
We were both sitting there waiting to see the Wild Bunch, and someone assumed that maybe you made the Wild Bunch.
Okay.
Right. Well, so far so good. So as I tell the stories and they get progressively worse, you can improve on them.
Are they worse than that?
This one could be, yeah. Now we're at around the same time period. We're at the first horror convention I ever went to. I think it might have been a Famous Monsters convention, okay, at the Ambassador. And you got up to speak about Schlock. I'm sure you remember that like it was yesterday. And you came on afterwards, and I was sitting there with Dennis Murin, and you came up to us and you said, "Hey guys, did I look nervous or anything there?" And we said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I've done the Tonight Show, I've done speaking engagements all over the country about this film, and this is the first time in my life I've been nervous. I don't know if it's all these Famous Monsters fans or whatever, but did I look nervous? Did I look like I was sweaty?" We said, "No, you looked fine."
Now that's a good story.
Yeah.
He's right. Johnny Carson, Noel Coward, George Bernard Shaw, Johnny Legend, those kind of raconteurs with the kind of amazing stories. It's like an Alec Wolcott kind of level of wit. What the fuck? That's the worst story I ever heard.
Well,
Johnny.
The only reason I'm telling this story is while this was
Dennis
going on,
Murin, though, is done quite well.
Right. Now, at this same place, this weird guy who I already knew, Gerald Cormier, alleged producer, came waltzing into the convention with two portable 35mm projectors, which I'd never heard of, never knew existed, set them up in an auditorium and did the world premiere of what was then called Terror Circus. And the film was still wet from the laboratory, and we walk in this room, and here's this weird exploitation R-rated horror movie with Andrew Prine, a makeup, a monster, some naked women, which was a little unusual for a convention of a bunch of young horror fans and all that. Now this, I don't know if you remember at all, but that was the very first screening in the world of the film we're releasing on DVD right here today, tonight, as we speak.
I'm all a quiver.
And that was Barn of the Naked Dead. See,
Barn of the Naked Dead, sure, Barn of the Naked, because I remember when I saw 2001 very clearly at the Pacific Stanley Warner here in Cinerama. I remember that. I remember when I saw The Wild Bunch. I remember when I saw The Exorcist at the National in Westwood. There's certain films that make a huge impact. Annie Hall and Barn of the Naked Dead, that's not one of them. I don't have a fucking clue what that is, so I'm going to have to get the DVD because I don't remember anything.
And we didn't know at the time it was directed by Alan Rudolph, who was about to become a fairly well-known.
Oh, Alan Rudolph, really?
It's his very first film.
There you go.
And he doesn't have much to say about it today. He kind of disowns it. So his comments are almost as interesting as ours. We're trying to make up for Alan Rudolph not
this is extra material for the DVD?
Yeah, yeah.
I knew he bought me lunch, and I was like, Johnny Lesden doesn't buy anyone lunch. So that's what this is about.
Oh yeah, this is part of Gore Beat. We're on Gore Beat, the video gore magazine. So we don't just do extras and bonuses and all that nonsense and, theatrical trailers, audio commentary. We do our own video horror magazine that goes with each feature if it's a horror film.
Is there nudity in the...
Plenty of nudity.
In the magazine?
Yeah, nonstop.
And violence?
Violence, yeah, you name it.
Well, then it's obviously worthwhile. So check it out.
Now, since we're here kind of nestled into Gore Beat at the tail end of Barn of the Naked Dead, because you've said you've been kind of fascinated with that film for years, do you have any impressions on that you'd like to give, or any insights or anything you know about Alan Rudolph related to that movie?
I just remember seeing it at the drive-in, and maybe it was called Terror Circus when I saw it. I'm not sure. I just remember that it was one of those movies that was almost like beyond belief. It seems to me, I haven't seen it in ages, so I'm really looking forward to this DVD release. But it seems to me that the guy kept his dad in a shed, and his dad was some kind of monster from a radioactive testing grounds, and that he had girls in a barn, and he had them chained up, and he was making them perform like circus animals.
Just like it says on our...
Oh, is that right? Well, yeah. That's pretty much the film in a nutshell. But I mean, again, there's a movie that it has a sleazy factor to it, you know what I mean?
Because as we're sitting here speaking, hopefully, we're also listening to some pretty astounding music, also recorded by you, right? We're going into a third or fourth career here.
Yeah, the surf guitar album, Scared Topless. It's funny how that stuff goes. I always wanted to know how things work. I just want to know what makes things tick and how things are done. And I really kind of I did the album because I wanted to understand how multi-track recordings were made, and then I pressed the album really just to be a gift to friends of mine and stuff. Although we did sell enough of them to push it over, and we got a lot of radio airplay, which I thought that kind of stuff was impossible.
So you came into town like a hurricane, started raising Helen like that, and one of the first things I became aware of that you did was you made a treatment. A lot of people do this, but you're one of the few I know who's done it successfully. You made a short version of a film to go out and get financing and get it financed and actually do the film. And
yes.
You gave that to me, and it premiered on Sleazemania, the original Sleazemania back in the early '80s, and at that point it was called Prison Ship.
Right, that's absolutely right.
And you had Aldo Ray in it and a few other people.
Yeah, that was one of those things that we did on the tail end of Biohazard. We were making the movie Biohazard, and we had rented Roger Corman's studio because it had some standing sets still up from Space Raiders.
Right.
And we had Aldo playing a general and all that, and I think we decided that we would hold the stage for one more day, and we'd bring Aldo and pay him an extra day, and we would go in there and try to shoot some girls running around and see if somebody wouldn't give us the money to make the rest of the movie, and they did.
Yeah. And then to even up the ante, you went ahead and started making, I don't remember what title it was at the time, Prison Ship, which I'll cut to the chase, finally came out as Star Slammer, and you added me to the cast. Originally, your idea of bringing me in was John Carradine. You said we were going to be shooting out in the mountains in Chatsworth, and it was 108 degrees, and you were afraid Carradine might not make it. So
That's right, yeah.
And you were going to edit it so that I was maybe a younger Carradine, maybe 50 years younger if he was 150, let's say.
The key to his own asylum.
This whole generation, people our age, although he looks a hell of a lot older than me, don't he? Is Spielberg, Lucas, Coppola, Scorsese, De Palma. I mean, these guys, it's Revenge of the Nerds. Because when you were interested in making 8mm horror pictures, and I was interested in making little clay monster movies and stuff, we were geeks. We were genuinely geeks. And we were the audio-visual guys in school. The kind of character Doug Kenny made famous in Animal House with the pocket protector. And
So you were one of the guys that went around with the projector.
with the projectors and showed the movie. Sure.
I at least still made fun of the movie and threw stuff at the blackboard.
No, we did both.
Yeah, you're right.
See, it was a very unique position because you were kind of a geek, but really a subversive, revolutionary, communist, transsexual thing going on.
But were you in something else for us?
No, I've been waiting for 15, 17 years to get another part, but
It feels like we've done something else.
well, no. One other thing, though, this is a pretty funny because this was a real fluke. And you called me up one day. I'm not sure the time frame because it's around this same time period. Maybe you shot Biohazard earlier and we're about to get a release on it. But you called me one day and said, Johnny, listen, I just made a deal on Biohazard and I found out that the running time it's like 8 or 9 minutes short for the release time it has to be for this release.
Yes.
And you said, I had this brainstorm. You know that song you have, Rockabilly Rumble? Great song. He said, I was thinking of just putting that song on at the end and looping it like 3 times to go the full length. And then I'm going to put outtakes from the movie
That's
in
right.
like people were doing then. So we'll put 8 or 9 minutes of outtakes in. I'll put Rockabilly Rumble in there 3 times. Then I'll get the whole 8 or 9 minutes. And that's what you did.
I did do that.
The creature was our soldier designed to fight our wars. And it is a success, at least in most areas.
I think that's it.
Rockabilly rumble. Well, Rim shot Judy set the joint on fire. Sheila was a dripping with a deadly desire. Rockabilly, rockabilly rumble, well, rockabilly rumble was red hot chicks, just breaks some kids.
I didn't travel 500 miles just to watch this freak show nonsense.
Action!
I wonder what this is.
It looks like a container of some sort. Like a trunk or something. Line.
I wonder what's inside.
I wonder what's inside. Maybe we could get it open.
Nobody's opening this. It goes back in the van, it goes into the van untampered.
Do it again.
Nobody's opening,
Do it again.
nobody is opening anything. This goes in the van untampered with.
Surely you don't mean that.
Joni was a woman on a daisy chain. That couldn't seem to get her.
Geiger, Carter, get this thing in the van. We're moving out.
You're making a big mistake here.
Cut.
God.
Okay, mark it.
Action.
Joni was a woman on a daisy chain. That couldn't seem to get her pants loose.
Okay, now somewhere around the same time period, you made one of your crowning achievements, and the reason I'm bringing it up is because you're about to do a 20-year anniversary edition of Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers.
I'm working on it right now. You can see how hard I'm working on it, but I swear to God, I am working on getting that out of here and into people's homes.
Good.
Once more.
Because we went to a sneak preview of that somewhere on was it the Egyptian or something?
It was at the Egyptian.
That's what I thought.
Another one of those instances where the filmmaker is treated more like another one of the audience. I had made a deal with some guys who were starting a company, and they needed a movie and they wanted to make a film, and so they kind of came in and they put all this together. The biggest problem I had was that they forgot to include me, and you would have thought it was the Camp Video's Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers. And I went to this premiere at the Egyptian, and there was Kit Natividad, and there was Paul Marco in a corner dressed up like a cop. People I had never seen before. It was like a circus. And it was amazing. Each one of these guys who actually had never worked on the film at all were all getting up and giving speeches and stuff. And I actually went in the restroom, and I'm at the stall, and the head of the company stands next to me, and he looks over and he says, "Hey Fred, I'm sorry about the way we treated you tonight." I said that's okay. I said, because at the end of the day, I said, I actually own the movie and you don't. So
the Hollywood Chainsaw Hooker Hallelujah Girls, folks, they're here to celebrate, as we all are, the 20-year anniversary edition of Fred Olen Ray's Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers.
When you work in Hollywood, you learn fast that there's just two kinds of girls in a town like this. Sweet, shy, innocent ones. You know, the ones you want to take home to mom. And then there are the other kind. The ones you just want to take home.
Music does something.
Sometimes they like to play a little rough, but then these aren't your average girls.
Oh no!
And this isn't your average movie. If you haven't figured out by now, there's something for everybody. Well, almost everybody. There's action, romance, and a cast of thousands. It's Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers. These girls charge an arm and a leg.
I think it's time somebody cut you down to size, Jack.
Have you ever considered therapy?
I'm going to enjoy splattering you.
Hostile. Very hostile. Got a great set.
Yeah, I know.
Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers. It's a comedy that'll leave you in pieces.
If you grow up in Los Angeles, where you live, Pomona, where the fuck is that? You know, I mean, LA's a very segregated place, and there's no public transportation. So people, where are you from, Fullerton? Is that in Ohio? You know, where's Fullerton?
Schluck! Schluck! Schluck!
He was a lovely
I never
guy.
could figure out why I wasn't in it, but what the hell? We just missed each other
I'm
at that
sorry.
point in our careers, you know.
In any case.
And then,
well, that's why Schlock, you know what, people would see Schlock and they go, where the fuck is Johnny Legend? And so the picture tanked. Anyway, so I went, this is a good story, because I was 21, and I'd already been working for like 5 years in the business, in low-level schlepper stuff, but working stunts and working as a PA and a gopher and stuff, and dialogue coach on a lot of really bad Spanish movies. But anyway, I went to John Chambers and he said, well, my original intention was to have a really bad gorilla suit, really like bad. I was directly inspired by Trog, Joan Crawford's last movie, and the monster in Trog is this pathetic, it's like one of the armatures from 2001 heads, but the guy's kind of a tubby wrestler with like a fur bikini and fur slippers, and he's got fur muffs. So my original intention was to have a bad gorilla suit, and there are certain levels of bad. The one you could rent, like from Western Costume, was too big. You know, that was, it was shitty. So I asked John if he'd make me one. He said, sure, I could make you a good one, probably for $150,000, $175,000. So, okay, well, who else can make me one? And
with 3 less zeros.
Yeah, John suggested I go to Don Post Studios in Burbank. And they're the guys who made all the pullover head Tor Johnson mask and stuff that you'd buy on Hollywood Boulevard and in the back of Famous Monsters. So I went there, and Don Post Sr. told me, well, I could probably make you a pretty good suit for, $75,000. And I'm thinking, like, you know. So as I'm leaving, this guy was painting a mask. I'm pretty sure it was a Tor Johnson man, but he's painting this mask, he's spray painting it, and he turns and he says, hey, I go over. It was Don Post Jr. And he said, there was a kid in here who might be able to help you out. He was talented. Let me go. And he comes back with a card, a business card that said Rick Baker, Monster Maker. Has his mother's phone number on it. And I call him up, and he's this kid in Covina. And I remember Covina. Isn't that that's
Denmark, right?
Denmark, right? Yeah. I was like, what the fucking... So Jim O'Rourke, my partner, and I, we drove to Covina, and we went to this very lower middle class neighborhood and went to this tract homes, and there I met little Ricky Baker, who had very long hair and terrible acne, and went into his room, and his mom and dad, wonderful people, and I went into his room, and he had shelves of all the models and makeups and photographs of stuff he'd done. Now, I'd been working on real movies for a long time, and this work was so superior. It was like, I turned to O'Rourke, I said, this kid's brilliant. And anyway, so Rick was 20 and I was 21 when we made Schlock, and he did the makeup and built the suit for, like, I think his budget was $2,000, and baked the molds in his mom's oven.
See a small California town learn the true meaning of terror.
Bananas! Call out the National Guard. Oh, this is going to be the best, Santa.
See the police and National Guard powerless before the awesome creature.
Hold it, hold it! Can't you wait that stuff, Mindy?
Why not? Can nothing stop it? Can anything stop it? Arnie, will you please stop it?
This thing has been frozen in ice for 20 million years, so I figure it must be lonely.
First, birth of a nation. Then, Gone with the Wind. 2001, A Space Odyssey. Love story. See you next Wednesday. And now, Schlock. There is no place to hide. No one is safe from Schlock. 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 Schlock.
Are we having fun yet?
All right, I am here with Brian Yesna, the man who I could say jump-started or reignited my career as a horror actor, if you assume that I had one to begin with. Going back to the late 80s when I sort of barged my way into Bride a Reanimator.
Yeah, that was you were quite an event on that movie, I think.
Yeah.
I think, who was it? Was it Tom Renoni that?
Brother Tom.
I think Tom Renoni brought you to my house for Thanksgiving or something, and
yep.
And the way you attacked that turkey.
Yep.
Made us think that possibly
there may be a place
you could be a flesh-eating zombie.
Yeah, and I know that at the time it came up and you were getting down to the crunch, at that point the film, the cast was full. There wasn't really any room there.
That's right, but we made room for you.
Right, and the way that happened, I should go back and recreate that because I got some clips of it. Tom called me one day and said, you know, there's this voiceover in the script of a carnival barker. He said, and I know you got that Spike Jonze suit, so if I come over and you put the suit on and we film you doing the voiceover, I'll show it to Brian and I bet he'll say, oh, we got to put him on camera.
See, the amazing alligator boy. Siamese twins joined at the waist. Eskimo geek who eats glass and garbage.
Because the suit was in my trunk and I went out to get the Spike Jonze suit and there was a body on my trunk. And we started shooting, and this was before cops or any of that stuff. And this ended up involving all the local derelicts in the neighborhood and everything.
Johnny, do you think we can continue with the audition now?
We're going to try to get back to the audition momentarily. We would like to point out that right after this next segment, we will have a medical update and a 1-800 number that you people can call. I would also like to point out that our friend in the background here, who has already received a can of Alpo for his appearance on the show, is already asking for royalties and so forth.
And I remember your famous quote. You looked at it that day and you said, this is certainly better than anything on television. I think we should give Johnny a part. No, another great thing is a day or so after that, once it was agreed upon that I was in the movie. Remember one day I was in your office and I was showing you how I could contort my face and keep it for.
I remember that.
For hours on end if necessary. So I had that and I was keeping it for as long as, and some people I'd never met came in your office, and you said, "Oh, this is Johnny Legend," and they were kind of looking around like, "Oh, is that how he is?" And it was kind of like you don't say anything. That's Johnny. So I stayed like that for about 30 or 40 minutes, right?
That proved it.
And they were kind of acting like a guy missing a couple legs or something, just being polite and everything. And also I let my face go back to normal, and they looked at you and then me and they said, "Well, what's the deal, Brian? Is this some kind of gag or what's happening? He's not really like that."
I thought it was more like they said, "What the fuck?"
And don't forget, like I said, if you get to the next sequel, this time wherever you are, you may be somewhere in Tanganyika or somewhere, I'll make it my business to be there because I don't want to miss another. How many sequels have there been now?
There's been 2.
Okay, wow.
There was Bride, and then there was Beyond Reanimator.
Right.
And then we're working on House of Reanimator for Stuart Gordon to come back and get the gang together. That's Reanimator in the White House.
Let me give you a hand, Bill.
And then let's not forget the one over the years I sort of retitled it Beverly Hills Bloodsuckers or whatever. Me and my exploitation mind. That other really, really good film you made that had a kind of art house release. The one you made while you were still
Society.
here. Society.
Yeah. That movie's had quite a lot of. It has had a lot of legs.
Yeah.
It was shot in '88, and it's still quite famous, especially in Europe.
Right.
In Italy and in UK. It's quite a big hit.
Well, as usual,
believe it or not, it was a very small movie.
I was at that first screening and I said, "Man, this kind of transcends just your average horror film, which meant it didn't get released as a regular horror movie over here."
No, well, it was very small release.
Yeah, I know, because I was distributing some of those, and this is as small as it gets in the late 80s.
No, it was pretty small. I remember when the MPA made us cut some seconds out of it.
Right.
We did it in my garage. We took all the prints there and we cut them, and we took them to the cinemas. So
yeah.
That was. I thought, this is it. You don't get any more basic than cutting the film
now,
and
then
editing
hiking
or just
it over. One of those
No, we were using a moviola.
For Bill Whitney,
I've never been paranoid.
fear plays a large part in family life.
I feel like something's gonna happen. And if I scratch the surface, there'll be something terrible underneath.
He's afraid his sister
Could you zip me up, Billy?
is not what she seems.
God, Bill, what's the matter with you?
He thinks his friends are out to get him.
Make waves, Whitney. You're gonna drown. People are what they are. Now you have to learn to accept that.
He's about to find out the truth.
Why are you guys doing this to me, huh? What, you've been living with these people all your life and you didn't know anything about this?
Is far worse than he could ever imagine.
If you don't follow the rules, Billy, bad things happen. Didn't you know, Billy Boy? The rich have all sucked off low-class scum like you.
Uh-oh, Billy.
Clarissa? Don't be so intense. Now, some people make the rules, and some people follow the rules. It's a question of what you're born to.
You never were one of us.
You know, you really deserve what's going to happen to you. I don't think so. Wait.
Can't you see they're setting you up for something?
You know how I hate to give you drugs. You're officially dead.
Don't go home, Billy.
No.
Bill Whitney is about to become one.
Showtime, Billy!
With society.
Who are you? Let me give you a hand, Bill.
In Beverly Hills, what you fear is only the beginning.
Anything for society.
I'd actually worked on real movies, a lot of real movies, but in very low level capacity. when I got back to LA in the early 70s. And remember they used to show movies at the Gordon?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, Joe Dante and John Davison. And we all used to get together, and Joe was cutting trailers, I think, for Corman at the time.
And you used to go to the World Theater, I'm sure. 3 big hits for 99 cents.
There used to be a very large black man walking up and down the aisles with a baseball bat. That was security. Remember that guy?
Oh, yeah.
World Theater. Hollywood Boulevard, actually, in the 70s, was kind of like 42nd Street in the 70s. It was really a grindhouse place. And it's where we saw, if you were a film buff, though, you could see all the European pictures here, badly dubbed. And
Primitive Love. A fantastic journey into the love life of the primitives. Guided by Franco Franchi, Jane Mansfield, and Chicho Ingracia. A comical, unpredictable, irresistible film.
Get to work, you idiot!
While we're on the international front here, I was going to bring up the fact that a lot of people watching this are familiar with Mariska Hargitay, the star, is it Hargitay, the star of Law and Order SVU.
Absolutely.
And some people actually know that Jane Mansfield was her mother, and even some more knowledgeable people know that Mickey Hargitay was her father. Okay? Now, I'm trying to clear this up because while Jane Mansfield was overseas in Italy making Primitive Love, which we're looking at a little bit of right now, and which you're going to see a lot more of on the Ultimate Sleazemania, her hubby, Mickey, was also over there somewhere in Europe shooting the astounding Bloody Pit of Horror. Now, can you give us a little background on that?
He had gotten pretty famous as a bodybuilder around the same time that Steve Reeves had made a name for himself on the bodybuilding circuit and had gotten the Hercules movies out of it. So all of a sudden, after Hercules broke, well, a lot of bodybuilders were getting work because they wanted to make sword and sandal movies with them. And then when you milk the Hercules vein dry, they started going for, okay, well, we'll get Machiste, and we'll have, then Steve Reeves went off and did Morgan the Pirate for Josephine Levine. So as that was drying up, they were still big in Italy because the Italians were financing most of these sword and sandal movies, so they started going off in a different direction. Hargitay wound up getting the villain role in Bloody Pit of Horror.
Never before so much paralyzing terror as in this hair-raising orgy of sadism, influenced by the shocking writings of the evil, depraved Marquis de Sade. Bloody Pit of Horror. Starring Mickey Hargitay as the Crimson Executioner. They come to photograph seductive models against a medieval background and find themselves helplessly trapped in a castle of horrors.
Susie! What?
At the mercy of the twisted perversions of a madman who satisfies his lust by torturing his victims with the bone-breaking rack. The razor-sharp swords. The scalding, boiling oil. The deadly spider web. These and other fiendish torments make Bloody Pit of Horror one of the most terrifying films ever made.
Speaking of hayseed horrors, which Part of the Naked Dead is probably just a distant relative, we're going to go back now and have a look at Invasion of the Blood Farmers. I was just told by Fred Olin Ray that a very similar looking film, Death Farm, which we're also looking at, is actually a completely different film. So here's the scorecard. The original Invasion of the Blood Farmers can be seen on the complete Sleazemania, which will be out next month. The second Invasion of the Blood Farmers trailer we're going to be looking at right now, along with Death Farm, which according to Fred Olin Ray is a completely different film, both classic examples of hayseed horror.
Invasion of the Blood Farmers. Therefore, we warn you, don't eat before you see Invasion of the Blood Farmers, and you'll have nothing to lose. plant the living and harvest the dead. Invasion of the Blood Farmers.
Now, John and I, after all these years, actually did appear together almost in a film that's in release at the moment. That's something to keep in mind.
I was cut out.
Right. But you weren't cut out because most people just watch the extras and outtakes.
I have to tell you, Tim disagrees with me. Tim Sullivan's first picture, Tim was, worked on Coming to America.
Right.
He was in charge of putting those signs on parking meters that said, "Don't park here tomorrow, we're making a movie." And he was a real little monster geek, and he came up, I like for famous monsters too. It's like, really? Get away from me.
Now, Mr. Jones, why do you sign your paper Corn Dog?
This one's a sequel to 2001
Yeah, it's called
Maniacs.
Beverly Hellbillies.
And
at
I
the
understand
moment.
Johnny Legend will be making another appearance.
Right, along with Tony Todd this time. And I hear you're going to make another appearance in the outtakes.
Not if I can help it.
Your outtake isn't in the can yet, so it's kind of hard
There
to
you
say.
go. It's kind of a new conceptual avant-garde. It's a performance piece where Tim asked me to be in the film. I don't show up, and then he claims I was cut out. It's like, the Dogma films in Holland. It's that kind of.
But you are a very serious, versatile, and known wrestler. And
I had my
else you're
time.
doing.
Yeah. Not so much anymore. I've probably had more serious injuries than most of the guys who work that kind of circuit, because I had a triple Joe Theismann type fracture in my leg, and I had to have double surgeries and titanium plates and screws and things of that nature. And the funny thing is that when I broke that leg, it bent straight outward from the ankle. It just flopped over on the side. There's absolutely nothing holding it together. And I had to finish the match. I mean, I got onto the rope, and I got up on the rope, and I said to the ref, my leg's broken. I can't put my foot down on it, may weight on it, because it would just snap to the side. And the guy said, "You got to finish."
You also worked with a lot of famous people there, Terry Funk.
Yeah, I was tag team with Terry Funk on about 3 or 4 occasions, and I finally wrestled him one time in a 4-way, because I just wanted to see what it was like to actually work against him, and that was a lot of fun. The best thing was that Terry threw a left. He was I think he's left-handed. He throws a left, and he connects. Every one of them connects.
Oh yeah.
I said, "Terry, is it possible you could throw one punch to my face that's not connecting?"
Now you actually had your own federation, right?
For a bit, yeah. Yeah, well, there's so many. There's so many. People say, who all did you wrestle for? Good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck remembering all the little one-night places you did. And I had All-Star Championship Wrestling that we ran out of Reseda, and we did pretty well there. And I mean, the way I handled that was I had a gimmick match every show, and I would be in the gimmick match because nobody wanted to do it. I mean, I had live rattlesnakes in the ring. I had an alligator in there one time. Exploding tables, barbed wire, exploding fluorescent lights wrapped in barbed wire with explosives, and then an electrified fence match where it was powered up by car batteries, and and nobody wanted to do it. Who was going to stick their hand in a cage of live rattlesnakes? So it would be me.
We had the Holly Theater, that was across the street, that real tiny little place.
Oh,
we
and
had the New View.
Fox and the New View and the Pix. And
right.
All these places are now taco stands and churches.
Yeah, the Ritz became a church. Did you ever show up at the Ritz in 1992 when Eric Caden and I took over and turned it into a total reinvented grindhouse?
No, I know nothing about that. But Eric Caden, you know, there's certain people, Henri Langlois, Leonard Maltin, Eric Caden. There's certain very important people in the critical community and film theory community you should know about. Eric Caden is probably up there with Andrew Saris and Pauline Kael. He's a very distinguished, very educated man who has a real appreciation of shit. That a lot of the other academics don't have.
But no, it's just what an honor to be heralded by a great director like John Landis. Unbelievable. I mean,
he was putting you in the same ranks as Andrew Saris, Noel Coward, people like that.
No, I'm totally humbled. I mean, I can't believe that. That's I don't know what to say. I'm speechless.
What are some of the great reviews? A lot of people don't realize that Eric Caden is also an ace film critic in addition to being an actor and an entrepreneur and part-time wrestler and a lot of other things. What are some of the great reviews you've done over the years?
God, publications?
Yes.
Well, you know, we had the original Hollywood Book and Poster newsletter, which was one of the, had some great interviews and film reviews. We interviewed like Sky Saxon and Jan Savage, or what's her name, Ava Savage, and some of the greats in LA wrestling and TV and film history back in the 70s. I wrote for Cult Movies Magazine, RIP, Mondo Cult Magazine. I write for them right now. And, you know, that's some of the major magazines I've written for.
Okay. Mr. Eric Caden, as referred to by John Landis here on Gore Beat. Like I was just saying, every time I talk to you, you're in a new country. So what's a quick wrap-up of the last dozen or so years?
Well, I went from here to Spain.
Right.
Well, I'd done a picture in Vancouver. Then I went to Spain and spent 8 years there. Barcelona, doing the Fantastic Factory, which is a line of pictures that included Dagon by Stuart Gordon. I did Faust, directed it. Faust, Love of the Damned, based on the comic book. Jack Shoulder did Arachnid, a giant spider.
Right.
Jaume Balagueró did Darkness, which is our biggest picture, got released in the States by Dimension. What else did we do? We did The Nun, Pray You Don't See Her.
Right.
We did Roma Santa, which was a werewolf trial based on a true werewolf trial in Rome in Spain in the late 1800s. And I did Beneath Still Waters. So we did quite a few movies there.
Yeah,
now
that's a lifetime already. Yeah.
Now I'm in Jakarta, Indonesia, making Indonesian horror movies.
One more time. Okay, Johnny wants me to tell everybody, this is Johnny Legend, I'm Ray Dennis Steckler, by the way. We're in Las Vegas at Mascot Video, that's my video store. Of course, it's my video store. Named after the great Nat Levine of Mascot Movies back in the 30s, I want you to know that. The greatest low-budget filmmaker ever. Okay, now, what you see here is not necessarily what you get. Is that good?
Absolutely.
Because when Johnny's on stage and I'm on stage, things change. But right now, this is kind of informal, and I'm just going to follow Johnny's lead because he's number one. Uno.
Numero uno por la primera legenda en este mundo. See, that's a bilingual.
See.
Now I told you folks in the last edition of Gore Beat, Steckler, and now we are standing here today in the jaws of history. I said incredibly strange creatures one more time. I was echoing the words of Ray Dennis Steckler, and now you are in the thick of it, right? You're in the heat of the battle. You're doing it.
That's absolutely right. In fact, I'm making the incredibly strange creatures who stopped living and became mixed up zombies. The extension, one more time, starring Cash Flag at 69. And due for release in January 25th, 2008. Please send money now to my website, raydennisdeckler.com. Oh, they're calling
Here we go, see? That's all he had to say.
Hold on, I'll get it.
You can keep rolling, though, because it is www.raydennissteckler.com. As I said in the last Gore Beat, as you can see, things are happening so quick here, we can barely keep up with it. We are going to be filming tonight scenes for the incredibly strange creatures one more time. I'm going to be performing songs at the behest
Johnny
of Mr.
speaking.
Steckler.
All right, tell Steven Spielberg I cannot be there
Tell
tomorrow.
Spielberg we're busy. We've got friends here.
I'm sorry. He's just going to have to get somebody else to make that $2.98 film. All right. Bye-bye. Love you. That's my wife. That's not Spielberg.
Oh, okay. Well, sometimes Steve tracks us down here too, and that other Lucas Pucas, whatever his name is. Anyway,
What do they do with all that money?
I don't know. They sure don't put it on the screen. I'll tell you.
Ah, yes, you're right. Okay, go ahead, Johnny.
So we're going to be actually filming tonight as we speak here today. It's the day of the 19th, and we're going to be filming some stuff tonight for the Incredibly Strange Creatures one more time, featuring me singing with my Vegas band. And I don't know if we should give too much away. We're going to be doing some songs that may be familiar to some of you out there who've been keeping track. Some very unusual things are probably going to happen tonight during the show. And it's great to be back. Like I said in the last Gore Beat, there's going to be Steckler, Steckler, Steckler from here on out, and that's what we're doing here. And I told the people last time, every film you've ever made, you've got them here, you're selling them, and now you're making history again. Right. You're throwing the rule book away, and you're doing this new one.
We take everything serious, right, Johnny?
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's just like the album and the other things and the wrestling thing and stuff. I never went into wrestling telling people I worked in the film business or was a director or anything. I didn't want that. I just wanted to go out. I just wanted to go out and do my thing, and sort of disappear. I mean, that's kind of that's the mindset I'm in these days. Is I'd like to just get into television and become faceless and nameless and just turn out my weekly television episode or whatever it is I'm doing and just collect the check.
And right now,
don't need to be famous.
As you've been telling me, making my head spin, you're probably doing 20, 30 things right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
well, you know what? You got kids and you got overhead, and that makes a working class man out of just about anybody. But yeah, I've been really busy, very busy. I've been making every kind of thing imaginable. I mean, I've done things recently that I thought I would never do, and apparently I've done them very well. So I'm still at it.
You're making features. You're making straight to cable, straight to video. You're doing the movies for the Life channel, right?
I've done. I have a Lifetime Christmas movie this year. I produced a gay soap opera for Here TV. I directed, wrote, and produced a gay vampire TV series called The Lair for Here TV. I did 2 disaster films just recently. I did a nuclear hurricane earlier this year. I'm still making the bikini movies for DirecTV. Anything with the word bikini in it's probably made by us. And just rocking and rolling.
Blow 'em to hell.
With what?
Disposable ink pen rocket launcher.
You're joking.
I thought everybody was using these now.
Yeah, it's a regular tit in the pendulum. Edgar Allan Poe would be so proud.
Well, Johnny Legend with Ray Dennis Steckler here at Mascot Video, signing off, and keep watching Gore Beat, and every time we're going to have more on Steckler. We did some Arch Hall Jr. the last time too, which was absolutely great.
Wait, I didn't say anything yet. You didn't give me any time to talk.
Well, I'm signing off so you can start talking, then I'll shut up.
Are you leaving?
Huh?
Are you leaving?
No, I'm going to sit here and interrupt.
Okay. Would you do me a big favor?
Sure.
Just one. Is that a promise?
No, yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Quit smoking.
Well, I don't want to make an on-screen promise I can't, hold to, but I won't light up until we're done with the interview.
Okay, buddy. All right. I just want to say one thing. I'm really honored to have Johnny in my movie. He's the first star I've ever had, actually, in my films. And this is going to be great. This movie is, so far we've edited 20 minutes, and I've watched it at least 20 times in the last 3 days because I like it. A rough cut that I like. And it's no one's ever made a movie like this before. It's an extension, 45 years in between. Jerry Wagner, the kid from Reading, Pennsylvania, who played the mad psycho hypnotized killer, because he has no brain, so he was hypnotized. He was very vulnerable. Is now 69 years old, and he's still vulnerable. And he's still out there. Well, I'm not going to tell you the plot. The plot came to me when I was walking by the cemetery the other day. I saw about 7 plots, and I said, that's a good one. And I picked that one. And then Johnny called me and says, hey, I got a gig in Las Vegas. And I says, great.
We're gonna hit the bus around. We're gonna run tonight. I'm thinking about which we're gonna have some kids. knows how to feel that fun. Got a hot dog, knows how to feel that fun. Need to put long daddy, otherwise it just ain't no fun. So I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. Can't quit it. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. Can't quit it. Gonna get it. Hope he's soaking the bone. Here we go. All right. I said something. Don't choke it. I said something. Don't choke it. I said something. No, I'm choking. I said something. Don't choke it. He's soaking the bone.
We're done. Stop filming. We have nothing to say.
I can tell him another story. This does another great one without a punchline.
The immortal Mr. Cash